Sylvanus Olympio, 1902 to 1963, was a nationalist leader and the first president of Togo. He is historically significant as the first head of state to be assassinated during a military coup in post-colonial Africa. He was a former businessman educated at the London School of Economics. Olympio led the Comite de l'Unité Togolaise, CUT, and spearheaded the movement for Togo's independence from French rule. He served as prime minister from 1958 until Togo officially became independent on April 27, 1960. He was then elected president in 1961 with over 90% of the vote. His presidency was marked by a push for true economic independence. He famously attempted to distance Togo from French influence by planning a sovereign national currency to replace the CFA franc. He was assassinated in January 13, 1963. Olympio was killed during a military uprising led by disgruntled veterans of the French colonial army, including future longtime dictator Nassing Bey Ayadima. The veterans were reportedly angry over his refusal to integrate them into the small national army due to his strict fiscal austerity policies. During the coup, Olympio attempted to take refuge at the nearby United States Embassy in Lomé. He was discovered and shot just outside the embassy gates. Olympio is often referred to as the father of Togolese independence. His death marked the beginning of decades of military rule and political instability in Togo, and it remains a symbolic moment in the history of Pan-Africanism and the struggle against neocolonialism.
Sentinelle, que dis-tu de la nuit? La nuit est longue, mais le jour vient. Excellences, Mesdames, Messieurs, le grand jour tant souhaité est enfin arrivé. Notre pays, le cher Togo, qui depuis 1884 a été successivement protectorat allemand, condominium franco-britannique, territoire sous tutelle de la France, retrouve en ce jour du 27 avril 1960 sa liberté d'antan. De ce moment, et à jamais, affranchi de toute suggestion, de toute entrave, maître de ton destin, cher Togo, mon cher pays, te voilà libre enfin. Au nom du peuple togolais, je proclame solennellement l'indépendance du Togo, notre patrie. Ahweto, obion benye ngulane bogweme, ma de govene mile, nya de govene, nyambuna bele bebero, enya de ka, enya gare matonia, le gavo poemea, mi trazu ablare vio, mi le miero così, nya de nyato, ablare, kata!
1960s, the world was witnessing a wave of transformation. Newly independent nations in Africa were carving out their destinies, and global superpowers were vying for influence during the height of the Cold War. Among these transformative moments was a historic meeting between two visionary leaders, President Sylvanus Olympio of Togo and President John F. Kennedy of the United States. Sylvanus Olympio, Togo's first president, was a trailblazer, a leader determined to forge a sovereign and self-reliant nation. His commitment to economic independence and political neutrality set him apart in a world divided by East and West. On the other side of the Atlantic, John F. Kennedy, a young and dynamic leader, was reshaping America's approach to the world, emphasizing diplomacy and support for emerging nations. In March 1962, these two leaders came together in Washington, D.C. to discuss the future of U.S.-Togo relations, African sovereignty, and the shared vision of a world where nations could thrive without domination or interference. This visit was more than a diplomatic engagement, it was a meeting of ideals. For Kennedy, it was an opportunity to support a moderate, independent African state and strengthen America's presence in West Africa. For Olympio, it was a chance to secure partnerships that would empower Togo's development while maintaining its sovereignty. The moments captured during this visit reflect the optimism and determination of two leaders who believed in the power of collaboration and respect. What follows is a rare and powerful glimpse into that historic day, Sylvanus Olympio's visit to the United States and his meeting with John F. Kennedy. Let's step back in time and witness this pivotal chapter in history. This is the story of how two leaders from opposite sides of the Atlantic came together to shape a brighter future for Togo and the world.
A head of state visits America. At Washington National Airport, elaborate ceremonies herald the arrival of the President of the African Republic of Togo. His Excellency Sylvanus Olympio, Chief Executive of the West African nation, is greeted by President John F. Kennedy, members of the Diplomatic Corps, and American officials.
Mr. President, for your efforts to win independence for your country, but even more for your efforts to build a better life for your people and to play a progressive and liberal and responsible position in the development of Africa. For your strong support for the United Nations. For all these reasons, Mr. President, you are most welcome to the United States of America. In welcoming you, we extend a hand of friendship to your people.
I hope that my visit here will enable me to understand more fully the policies of the United States and at the same time to contribute in a small measure to explain to you the real aspiration of our country. Once more, Mr. President, I thank you most sincerely on behalf of my people and on behalf of the members of my delegation for the very warm welcome which you have extended to us. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you very much.
The White House, residence of the American president, is one of the first stops for President Olympio and his party. They confer with President Kennedy, Acting Secretary of State George W. Ball, and G. Menon Williams, Assistant Secretary of State for African Affairs. The Togo party includes Their Excellencies Dr. Andrea Kapko, Hospice Koko, and Pauline Fritas. Another important visit, the State Department, for talks with American officials such as the Administrator of the Agency for International Development, Fowler Hamilton. Before an evening reception at the State Department, an exhibition of Togo cultural and economic achievements is shared in the company of Angier Biddle Duke, American Chief of Protocol. reception is given by Acting Secretary and Mrs. Ball. Hundreds of hands to shake, new faces to remember. At Arlington Cemetery, a wreath is placed on the tomb of the unknowns, honoring those who have died in defense of their country. A visit to the Capitol, seat of the legislative branch of the American government. The distinguished visitors take tea with members of Congress who are interested in the affairs of Africa, sharing information, each learning more of the problems of the other and working towards their solution. A reception by the Togolese government attracts a large number of officials and other leading Americans. The Togo delegation greets old friends and new friends. Important meetings continue with the Honorable Per Jacobson, Chairman of the Board and Managing Director of the International Monetary Fund, and with Mr. J. Burke Knapp, Vice President of the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development. An early breakfast with Mr. R. Sargent Shriver, Director of the Peace Corps. It is time to leave Washington to visit other cities. At the airport, Vice President Lyndon Johnson bids farewell to the distinguished guest as he boards President Kennedy's aircraft for the flight to New York. Washington stretches below. Aboard the aircraft, quiet conversation with the Honorable Leon B. Pulata, American ambassador to Togo, before the excitement of New York. A ticker tape parade. This is an event which America's largest city reserves for its great heroes and its most distinguished visitors. Thousands line the route along Broadway. The parade ends at City Hall, where Mayor Robert F. Wagner greets President Olympio. And points out some of the surrounding skyscrapers. The United Nations is familiar to President Olympio, for here he led his country to its place in the world body. In an office on the 38th floor, he is greeted by United Nations Acting Secretary General U Thant of Burma. Honors at Fordham, a leading American university. The Very Reverend Lawrence J. McGinley, president of the university, confers the degree of Doctor of Laws. At a New York hotel, residence of the visitors, there are meetings with representatives of many segments of American life. members of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, the Honorable Nelson A. Rockefeller, Governor of the State of New York, President Olympio of the Togolese Republic has visited the United States. His journey has